Another thing that we do in the winter is we usually in January or February start taking inventory of the deep freezers. I have two 7 cubic foot deep freezers that I use. And then we have a refrigerator with a freezer in the garage and a refrigerator with a freezer in the kitchen. The deep freezers are kind of a new thing for us relatively within the last couple of years. I did notice at the beginning of COVID, whenever the lockdown happened, that things were not available in the stores, as I'm sure all of you guys saw too. And so what I did is I ordered a half of a hog and I ordered a quarter of a beef at that time. And I got 2 deep freezers, one for pork and one for beef. We also started raising meat rabbits at that time because I was concerned that we weren't going to be able to get large quantities of chicken. And so I did all of that because I was really worried that there wasn't going to be stuff available. And to be honest with you, we just never have gone back because it's so convenient to go shopping in the house as opposed to go shopping at a grocery store. And to be entirely honest with you, the quality of meat that we get from a small time meat producer and a butcher is far exceeds what we're able to afford at the grocery store, especially now since inflation. Typically, whenever we order beef, we can get grass-fed beef grown here locally in the general Houston area for about $6 to $8 a pound. When you go to the grocery store, grass-fed beef starts at around $13 a pound and goes up from there. So you can tell that that's about half the price that you would get grass-fed beef for. Pork, it varies. The first pork we got was a pasture raised pork, and it was very high quality. And I haven't been able to get that high of a quality of pork since then. But all bacon tastes delicious, so I'm really not that picky. We don't order as much pork anymore because we just don't consume that much pork. We don't like pork chops. We have basically the only cuts of pork that we eat is bacon, ground pork, and pork loin. We like some ham steaks, but as you're gonna see whenever we do this freezer inventory, I still have ham steaks from a year ago, and quite a lot of them, because the only thing I can make out of them is pork schnitzel, and we only eat pork schnitzel maybe a couple times a year. I'm sure there's some other ways that you could cook it, but even when it's tenderized as it comes from the butcher, it's still really tough, and we haven't found another way other than deep frying it. And like I said, we don't deep fry that much. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and the purpose of this is we're going to take stock of everything that's in the freezer because we need to place another beef order. I really doubt that I'm going to place another pork order, but we might take a look at that. And I'm going to walk you through that process and show you that process too. But the first step in that process is to take an inventory. So I'm going to do a fast forward with you so I don't bore you with all the ins and outs. And then we'll take a look at my inventory sheet whenever we're done. Okay? Okay, so this is the verdict. We ended up with, for pork, ground pork, we had 14 pounds. Double packed pork chops, we have 6 packs. Ham hocks, we have 4 packs. Pork roast, I have 4 gigantic pork roasts. I have 1 small picnic ham and 2 packs of pork loin. As far as for beef goes, I have 19 pounds of ground hamburger. I have 11 packs of stew meat, 1 pack of fajitas, 27 pounds of beef bones, 1 double pack of T-bone steaks, 1 double pack of ribeye steaks, 3 packs of chuck steak, 3 extremely large chuck roasts. Like those wouldn't even fit into an Instapot. I'd have to cook that in a oven because it's so big. I have 1 small pike peak roast. I have 2 medium-sized tip roasts, 2 medium rump roasts, 2 very large briskets that would also have to go in the oven. 4 pounds of stir fry, 5 packs of beef cutlets, and 2 packs of double packed filet mignon. Then I also have 8 whole rabbits. I have 13 pounds of venison stew meat, and I have 3 rolls of venison sausage. That is a lot. And now that it's all rearranged and everything, and I know where everything is, and I've reorganized it again, this whole freezer is full now, the whole thing. And this one back here is, I would say, about half full. In order to make a half of a beef order, I would need to have 1 whole 7 cubic foot completely empty. And so once it gets down to, one of these gets down to about 1/4, then I could probably order them, because sometimes it takes as long as 3 months to get my beef order, but usually I can get it within about 4 to 6 weeks. So I need to be 4 to 6 weeks away from having a completely empty 7 cubic foot to fit all that beef in. And still with that, because of things being sized and shaped in all different ways, I usually end up putting meat in the garage freezer and in the freezer in the kitchen. So a couple of takeaways from this inventory is I've got so much beef bones, and I ask for them every time, and we do make beef broth. I make it every month, but I just make it as we need it because I don't can it and I don't store it. We just put it in the refrigerator until it's all used up, and then I make another batch, and that's just the way we've always done it. To be honest with you, that's because my pressure canner still scares me. I've only used it about 3 or 4 times, and every time I use it, I think it's going to explode. So I'm gonna have to just bite the bullet and make some more bone broth, a whole lot of it. I can clear up 1/4 in this freezer if I just did the beef bones, but that will probably take me about, to do it right, will probably take me anywhere between 3 and 6 days to do it. So it'll have to be a continuous effort of me making bone broth, canning bone broth for 6 days. So what I'd like to do is break it up into 2 weekends and spend 2 weekends making bone broth. Another thing that I can do in here is I have a whole lot of pork roast, and although I do like making a pork roast, especially making pork carnitas, mostly what I use those pork roasts for is for making bratwurst, breakfast sausage, Italian sausage. So I could spend a whole weekend making brats and breakfast and Italian sausage out of those roasts as well, but that will take a whole weekend. It will take Tyler's help too, because you need a lot of strength to push that frozen meat through the meat grinder. So yeah, that's a whole thing that we can do. And then if I do those two things and rearrange things in here a little bit more, plus us eating out of here, I think that within the next month I can have it down at least to where we could start an order. And then when we start the order, I'll show you how that process works, because I do it all online. And then when it comes to cut sheet time, we can do cut sheet as well. So I can walk you all through that, and then when we go pick it up or it gets delivered, my beef gets delivered, the pork I have to go pick up, and then organizing it all again and taking an inventory of what we have. But for now, my husband has requested that I take some of this venison sausage out because he didn't know we had it and he would like it for snacks. So until next time, I appreciate you guys coming along with me and going on a deep dive in the deep freezer. Have a great day. So I wanted to go over today with you how I chit my potatoes. And for those of you that don't know, whenever you look that up on Google, it says chitting potatoes is also called green sprouting or pre-sprouting. Chitting is a way of preparing potatoes for planting by encouraging them to sprout before planting in the ground. This gives the tubers a head start and encourages faster growth and heavier crops once the seed potatoes are planted. So what I have here is I have some red seed potatoes that I got from our farmer supply. And as you can tell, it has all these little sprouts all over it, all these little eyes, right? This is a red potato variety, but they also had a golden potato variety. I like this red one, it does well here. Also German butterball does really well for us. So you're gonna need some seed potatoes depending on how much room you have. I really don't plant that many potatoes because you have to dedicate a whole bed to it, and I really don't have enough space. I only have 93 square feet of garden space here, and when I take out one whole bed, and that takes out a lot of other things that I could be potentially growing. And potatoes are relatively cheap and easy to get at the grocery store, even whenever stocks are down. The other thing you're going to need is a cutting board and a knife. And then you're gonna need wood ash. I just take the wood ash out of our fireplace. That's why I'm sitting here today. And then you need one of the fancy boxes you can get from Amazon. I like a shorter one and something that has a lid. And cardboard's ideal for this. There are different times where it's optimal to plant potatoes in your area, and you should look that up. I basically can plant potatoes year round out here. There's also lots of videos on YouTube on how to do this. This is not the only way to do it. This is just the way that I was taught how to do it, and so that's what I do. So when I have a seed potato of about this size, which is about the size of my fist, I can see here it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sprouting eyes, 6 or 7 sprouting eyes. This potato is relatively small. Anything that's the size of a fist or smaller, I'm just going to cut it in half. And I'm going to try to cut it in half where there's equal amounts of eyes or sprouts on each side of the cut. And the reason why I do this is because each one of those little sprouts is a potential plant that shoots up, and off of each one of these plants is going to be multiple potatoes that grows. So the more eyes you have, the more shoots you have, the more shoots you have, the more potatoes you have. So you can take 1 seed potato and turn it into 2 seed potatoes. Then after you've cut it, you dip it in the wood ash. Dipped it in there, it's covered in ash. And then I put it ash side down inside of this box. wonder why you would chit the potatoes. So the number one reason you would chit the potatoes is so that you could take 10 seed potatoes and turn it into 20 seed potatoes. But so it increases your yield. That's one reason. Another reason is whenever you cut it and put the wood ash on it, the wood ash protects it from viruses and things on the cut surface. Wood ash is one component of lye, so it can be very caustic whenever it's wet. So it's like an antiseptic. We're like putting Neosporin on it essentially. And then whenever we put these and close them up in this box and put them in kind of like a semi-dark state, they're going to be able to start sprouting. So it's basically like we're creating our sprouts for our potato plants, just like we did whenever we planted the seeds into the seed trays. So that is a way where we're just ensuring that it's healthy, we get a head start on it, and we can see which ones are going to actually sprout and do well for us, and throw away the ones that are not, because there's nothing grosser than like digging up a seed potato that hasn't taken. It's just nasty. So you can use potatoes from the store to do this. I mean, who hasn't, forgotten about a potato and gone in there and seen that it sprouts? I specifically see this with sweet potatoes all the time in my pantry. You could try doing it with that. You can also chit it technically by putting some toothpicks in it and putting it in water, but that's usually for more ornamental kind of growth with sweet potatoes and those kinds of things. But you could take that and you could plant it and get more potatoes off of it potentially. A lot of the things at the store, potatoes included, are have some type of root inhibitor or something sprayed on them, especially if it's conventional, not organic, or if you're not getting it from a farmer's market. So I would definitely not recommend just getting like a conventional potato from a grocery store to use as a seed potato. Seed potatoes are grown because they have more eyes on them. They're disease tolerant, and it's good to just kind of switch up the varieties that you plant every year too, just to ensure that you're not propagating disease. Potatoes have a lot of different diseases in it, and whenever I first started growing potatoes, I was told that they were very difficult to grow and you had to wait certain times to do it. And really, to be honest with you, it's not as complicated as everyone makes it out to be. You just chit some potatoes, throw them in the ground, and if you grow potatoes, great, and if not, you go to the store and you buy them. It's not a big deal. It's just the homegrown potatoes typically have a thinner skin that is easy to eat. You don't have to skin it, and that's where all the vitamins and minerals are in a potato anyways. If you like really tiny roasted potatoes, you could harvest these a little bit younger and have tons of those little tiny potatoes. And those little tiny potatoes are amazing because they're like, the skin is so thin, and they're like little pieces of, I don't know, like buttery popcorn or something. They're so good. And when you roast them up in the oven, the skins kind of inflate a little bit and get very crispy on the outside and super fluffy and soft on the inside. And we absolutely love them. So that's how we like to get them. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting up all these potatoes and getting them all chitted, and then I'm going to show you how I store them away and monitor their growth, and then we can watch them over the next couple of videos to make sure that they're sprouting, and then I'll show you whenever we plant them into the ground.